to the July-August edition of Gameplay Learn, the educational games news podcast. We are your hosts, Anuar Andres Requerica
and Candace Lang.
This episode will cover highlights from the major serious games conferences in North and South America and Europe,
the rising popularity of eSports and virtual worlds,
a robot created at Georgia Tech that teaches kids how to play Angry Birds,
learning history through interactive fiction, plus a few other stories.
Our game of the month is the latest version of SimCity. Thanks for listening.
Now the news. Drew Davidson is one of the leaders of Carnegie Mellon's Entertainment Technology Center, a department doing a lot of exciting work in gaming and how it can be used to benefit humanity. Drew was at GLS to announce a new alliance of universities with game design and research programs. The Entertainment Technology Center at Carnegie Mellon creates games for learning STEM subjects and also has a very prominent course called Building Virtual Worlds that was actually originally taught by Randy Pausch, the faculty member that became prominent for his last lecture. The Building Virtual Worlds course is now taught by Jesse Schell, who just won an award at the International Serious Play Awards for an English language arts game his team created for Amplify's tablets. Also, the Entertainment Technology Center recently got a grant from Google Research on how to make MOOCs more pleasurable. Please check out their website for more information.
Interactive fiction and literary games are a genre of gaming that combines elements of books with elements of games into a single media product. There's a new book by Professor Astrid Ensling that reviews the field and proposes a new framework for analyzing literary games depending on how much the game uses different literary or ludic elements. It was published by MIT Press, which publishes a lot of game research books. Two popular tools to build interactive fiction are Twine and Inform 7, which recently released a major update. Our collaborator Rachel Ponce did graduate work on the history of medicine and just published an interactive story on the 1793 yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia. It's a wonderful literary game. We're not just saying that because Rachel's a collaborator. If her interactive story was terrible, we would just avoid mentioning it. The game is called The Fever. You play a young doctor dealing with a devastating epidemic while trying to keep your family safe. The Fever is super fun, it's very informative, and it does a great job of giving you a sense of fear when a deadly disease is everywhere. Our site has links to the literary gaming book published by Professor Ensling and to Rachel's interactive story, along with an article she wrote about how it was to create it.
Next month, Leapfrog will launch an educational gaming console with over 100 titles aimed at kids ages 3 to 8. The console will feature Kinect-like motion sensing. Leapfrog already offers an educational gaming tablet. Machinima are movies or documentaries made exclusively using footage animations from within a virtual world. Machinima has become a popular genre of film within the gaming and virtual worlds community. Phyllis Johnson and Donald Petit co-wrote a book titled Machinima, The Art and Practice of Virtual Filmmaking. In Grand Theft Auto 5, your character could walk into a movie theater and watch some amazing machinima. For example, a short surrealist film created with the Red Dead Redemption game engine. There's a yearly Machinima for Education festival that gives awards to the best uses of machinima in schools or other learning settings. A few of the awards went to students recreating and filming works of literature in Minecraft. The top award went to a beautiful sci-fi series recorded completely within Second Life. Another major award went to the Drax Files, a documentary series profiling incredible locations, avatars, and events within Second Life. We've watched all the episodes of the Drax Files and love them. There's one that showcases a replica of 1920s Berlin and what people learn when they visit it. For links to these machinima, visit our website.
Lots of educational gaming conferences have taken place in the past few months. Games for Change had two conferences, one in New York, where Gone Home and Papers, Please won the top awards, and one in Paris, where Outcasted, a game on homelessness that actually uses the Oculus Rift reality headset, won the top award. At the European Serious Games Awards, a game that trains employees on IT and data security best practices won the top award. We attended the Games Learning Society conference at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and saw some amazing presentations on how to use Gone Home to teach a bunch of different topics in the classroom, We saw another presentation by different organizations in the field that had conducted teacher surveys showing increasing use of games in classrooms across the U.S. There was also a panel on feminism in gaming, and Drew Davidson from Carnegie Mellon's Entertainment Technology Center announced a new organization that unites the efforts of all the universities in the field of game design and research. We also did a short interview with University of Wisconsin PhD student Amanda Oxner on games aimed at young women and feminist efforts in gaming. Plus, we talked about how the Mass Effect series really moved her and why it's a terrific game. The video of that interview is on our website, and we also have links to all the recorded talks of many conferences in the past few months. eSports are competitions where players of various games, for example League of Legends or Super Smash Bros., battle for prizes in teams or individually. These gaming tournaments have become enormous, with online viewers in the tens of millions and in-person attendance in the tens of thousands. The Dota 2 Championship had a cash prize this year of over $10 million, 3 times the size of last year's Dota 2 cash prize. Teams or individuals train for months or even years to prepare for the competitions. The NYU Game Center recently hosted a panel on women in esports with a number of female champions. The NYU Game Center also partnered up with the eSport gaming competition Evo Championship for a scholarship to a prospective game design student at NYU that wants to focus his studies on fighting games. Speaking of NYU's Game Center, we really love the work it does, and we recently bought Eric Zimmerman's board game Quantum. Zimmerman is one of the founders and professors there, and is the author of the Game Design Bible, Rules of Play. Engineers and researchers at Georgia Tech have built a robot that can both teach a child how to play Angry Birds and be taught by a child how to play it. The Georgia Tech team argues that the robot is really useful for repetitive tasks that might bore a parent, like doing the same sweeping motion 100 times on a tablet. The researchers also expect the robot to be particularly useful rehabilitating children with learning disabilities. The Georgia Tech researchers did a study with the robot and found that children spent an average of just 9 minutes playing Angry Birds when an adult was watching them. But when the robot was watching and learning how to play the game, so essentially being taught by the children spent 26.5 minutes playing the game instead of 9 minutes. Also, the kids would have a lot more eye contact with the robot than with an adult. The researchers at Georgia Tech are going to expand the robot's abilities to include being able to teach and learn how to play Candy Crush and Zyro Sky. To watch a video of the robot in action, go to our site. Schools and hospitals are adopting motion sensors, like the Kinect, for a number of programs and courses. Microsoft has partnered with a healthcare company called Virtualware to create a game that uses the Kinect to provide physical therapy to people with multiple sclerosis. A research team from Yale and 2 other universities has used the Wii Fit to get individuals receiving substance abuse treatment to exercise more. And there's this amazing school teacher in Bakersfield, California, that has a Guinness World Record for playing Dance Central for 74 consecutive hours. She actually uses the game in school to get kids to work out. Virtual worlds continue to expand and evolve. Yville, a very successful educational virtual world that's popular with girls, has set up an in-world career club where students can browse information on more than 550 occupations. There was a terrific keynote talk at the Games Learning Society conference this year about how some forms of cheating in Yville are actually forms of learning and collaboration between students. Another one of the most well-known virtual worlds is Second Life, and it's still an amazing experience for its hundreds of thousands of active users, and its platform logs about $500 million in commercial transactions between its users every year. We logged into Second Life recently to see how it was doing and attended a terrific meditation session in a Buddhist Zen virtual island. The island also featured resources like virtual books to learn more about Buddhism. Many educational groups and institutions have used Second Life for educational purposes, particularly building Second Life-based virtual campuses that do everything from host classes, meetings, conferences, to give guided tours to prospective students. In Finland, there's a Second Life-based virtual microbrewery created for a technical college. There's a series of biochemistry laboratories created for Finland's largest university, and then there's a history project created to teach high school students about the Finnish Winter War. Texas A&M University is using Second Life to teach chemistry in a course where students will visualize and manipulate 3D molecules in the virtual world. Texas A&M is also running a National Science Foundation study on whether using Second Life is more effective at teaching chemistry than a physical lab. Preliminary findings from that study show that it is, and that students also enjoy it more than the non-virtual experience. The company that created Second Life has announced a follow-up virtual world that will allow for even more advanced user-generated content. It also has updated Second Life to make it compatible with virtual reality headset Oculus Rift, creating an even more immersive feeling. On related news, Oculus Rift, which was bought by Facebook, has announced its first developers conference, which will take place in Hollywood on September 19th and 20th, and is open to the public. There's a ton of new virtual reality projects underway in every field you can think of. For example, manufacturing companies are using virtual reality to train employees on workplace safety. Financial companies are using it to teach people the importance of saving for retirement by showing customers virtual versions of their future lives under different saving plans. According to Jeremy Bailenson, who's the director of the Virtual Human Interaction Lab at Stanford, quote, people have a hard time tangibly understanding the possible poverty one might have as a senior citizen resulting from not saving money during one's youth, end of quote. There was also a recent really terrific talk at Microsoft Research on how virtual worlds are being used to revolutionize the training of therapists and improving the treatment of PTSD, addiction, phobias, and other mental health issues by making it much easier to implement realistic exposure therapies, which is where someone is guided back to the event which generated some trauma. The University of Southern California's Institute for Creative Technologies has an Oculus-based virtual world to treat soldiers with PTSD that even recreates the smell of a burnt explosive. The same University of Southern California team also has a published study showing that patients are more honest when they are disclosing personal information to a non-human avatar asking medical questions. Stephanie Bordas, a professor at the University of Luxembourg, just got a $2 million grant to create a virtual simulator for surgeons that will realistically mimic things like cutting soft tissue. Jamie Madigan runs a terrific blog on virtual world psychology and has a really great article summarizing all the latest research related to the psychology of video game avatar and how people's avatars influence people's behavior. Go to our site for the link to that article and all the other recent developments in virtual reality we just mentioned, including that wonderful talk at Microsoft Research. We don't usually cover games that haven't been released, but 3 alternative war games caught our attention. One is called 1979 Revolution. It's about the Iranian Revolution, and you play a journalist. Another is a war game called This War of Mine, where instead of controlling soldiers or generals, you control the civilians caught in the conflict. The last war game is called The Sun Also Rises, and it's based on stories from American soldiers during the War on Terror. While on this topic of weird indie games, one that has gotten very good reviews and was released last year on the PC is called Papo and Yo. It deals with the topic of addiction.
Now for our Game of the Month segment. So Anwar, you play 2 versions of SimCity, the regular retail version and a version modified for educational purposes. Tell me about the experience.
So before I start talking about these 2 versions of SimCity, the regular retail version and this modified version for education, I first want to mention the Glass Lab. So the Glass Lab is a research and educational game development center established by the Institute of Play, Electronic Arts, and other partners like Pearson and the Entertainment Software Association. And it's actually located in Electronic Arts headquarters in Silicon Valley. And it's funded by the Gates Foundation and the MacArthur Foundation. And its first major project was a modified version of SimCity called SimCity EDU Pollution Challenge. So that's what I played. So SimCity EDU is the first significant initiative to modify a major entertainment game for educational purposes. So kind of bravo to all the people and organizations involved with this project. SimCity EDU Pollution Challenge is designed for the classroom. There are about 6 levels to the game. Each takes more or less about an hour to complete. So the Glass Lab provides teachers with guides on how to use the game in the classroom. And the guide suggests teachers start a class by explaining the environmental challenge to students, and then students can proceed to play the game for about 20 minutes. And then after that, they can complete a short written reflection. There are also some diagrams that students must complete on how, for example, power plants, urban structures, and pollution are related. Most SimCity EDU pollution challenge levels usually involve just doing one thing on a pre-built city map. So that makes the levels not very engaging. The diagrams the students must complete are also not very engaging. When we looked online to see what other people thought about the game, we were surprised to find that only one organization really reviewed the game. Now, that organization is EdSurge. Even though there were dozens of articles written about the game's development, since it was such an important project for the games and learning field.
Oh, that's interesting. How was the retail version?
The regular SimCity game is pretty fun and educational. We played about 50 hours of it, and it's like the old SimCity, just with a lot more complexity and much better graphics. In this new SimCity, you can control everything from sewage to trash collection to transportation and all sorts of systems. The game does a great job at giving you a sense of trade-offs, for example, between cheap energy and clean energy, on how short-term fixes can turn into long-term nightmares, on how the growth of heavy industry, even though it's great for your budget, can really affect the quality of life of your residents. The game provides these wonderful graphs and tools to monitor all sorts of city systems and issues. The game got trashed by critics when it came out about a year ago for its server problems, though most of that has been fixed. We loved building our city and felt we learned a lot about how a city works from SimCity and the dilemmas and pressures faced by city managers.
We have come to the end of our podcast. We also have a newsletter version of the podcast that you can subscribe to on our website and a YouTube version with images of the topics the news is about.
If you want, check out our Twitter. We update it with educational games, job postings, upcoming events, and other announcements. Special thanks to our wonderful collaborators at Games Learning Society at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the University of Oklahoma's K-20 Center, and Carnegie Mellon's Entertainment Technology Center.
If you have any tips on news, events, job openings, and other things related to the field that you think we should cover, please send us a message through the contact form on our website, gameplaylearn.com.
Thanks again for listening. We'll be back soon. Take care.